Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. New Jersey is going to swear in a new governor in 1 month, and everybody's trying to figure out what he's going to do. Some are concerned. For instance, New Jersey banking executives are worried about some things he said on the campaign trail. Here's our interview with John McWeeney, the president of the New Jersey Banking Association. We have a new governor, at least he'll be sworn in January. What does that mean to the banking industry? John McWeeney is the president of New Jersey Bankers. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry.
These will be interesting times ahead for you. There's a couple of issues, and I think it's going to surprise people, the issues that you're concerned about. The first one maybe not so much, but the second one will be interesting. That's a little bit tease ahead. You are concerned, and I think concerned is the right word, that Governor Phil Murphy, when he becomes governor, might start a state bank. What does that mean to you?
Well, we don't have a lot of details about the proposal yet. It was something that Governor-elect Murphy came up with on the campaign trail, and he put it out there as a way to help create some more economic development, in his mind, get money, more loans in the hands of some people that weren't getting access to credit. But again, we don't have a lot of details, so my organization, my industry, we're not opposed to it yet. We want to support and work with the governor, but we do have some concerns as we speculate what a state public bank might look like. Specifically, if they decide they want to create this bank and go after public deposits, municipal deposits, and try and fund the bank that way, that would be a serious threat to our community banks here in New Jersey. That's a great source of liquidity for our smaller banks, and if that's put at risk, that would be a major concern of ours.
It would be unfair competition, wouldn't it?
Yes, well, you can just imagine if the state is doing business with a local municipality and distributing aid, and they want to get their local municipal deposit business, they have a little bit of leverage over a local bank.
If he says that he's going to give loans to people that couldn't get loans, that means they're playing by different rules. Well, would it not? I mean, it's all regulated, is it not?
They'd have to be regulated. They're going to have to get a charter. You would think they would want to underwrite loans in a prudent manner. So we'll see how that all plays out. I think our biggest concern from the banking side is more on how they would fund the bank, the liquidity that they would bring in, and what the source of that liquidity would be. Now, to be fair, there's other sources of deposits. The state has a cash management fund, which has a reasonable sum of money in it that really our banks don't play in that fund. It's a lot of out of really not U.S. banks that are foreign banks that have monies in those funds, and that would not be a threat to our industry here in New Jersey, and that could be a potential source of funding for the bank that we wouldn't have an issue with.
I've never even heard of such a thing. Is there a state bank in existence now?
There is. The state of North Dakota started one back in the late 1930s. But it was really, you know, North Dakota is not New Jersey, and the 1930s is not today. That bank functions today more as like a correspondent bank providing services to banks throughout the state. We don't really need that here in New Jersey. We got plenty of banking services.
Do you see a scenario where you could work with a state bank?
Yes, I think it's possible depending on how they structure the bank. And our number one concern is stay away from municipal deposits. It's just a critical source of liquidity to our New Jersey community banks.
So that's one issue that the New Jersey banking industry is concerned about. The other one is fascinating to me because it has to do with legalizing marijuana, which seems like it's going to happen within the first 100 days of a Murphy administration. Why are you concerned about that? Well,
marijuana is illegal at the federal level. Our banks are regulated by federal regulatory agencies like the FDIC and the Federal Reserve. It's not prudent for them to bank marijuana-related businesses. It's an illegal federal business. So I think it's going to be very difficult to find banks that will provide banking services to marijuana-related businesses.
And that's why you have a state bank.
Well, perhaps that could be a solution, and maybe that's part of Governor-elect Murphy's strategy down the road.
So you could potentially, let's put this all together. You could potentially have a state bank, and you have all this revenue coming in, and that money would go to the state bank, and then that money would be available to people who couldn't get loans otherwise?
Well, the revenue from the marijuana legalization would be tax revenue that I'm sure that the state would want to use for a variety of other funding needs that they have. As far as what monies run through the bank and the profits on that, I mean, you know, they'll have to determine how to best use those.
But a state bank has to be funded somehow, right?
It has to be capitalized. You know, and that's,
doesn't that make sense?
They're going to have to put up a certain amount of capital. If you want to start a bank today, you know, a de novo bank as they're called, here in New Jersey or anywhere in the country, if the regulators approve it, they're going to say, well, how much capital are you going to put in to start the bank? I don't have an exact number of what the regulators look for, but you know, there have been a few approved recently, and that number's in the $30 to $50 million range of initial startup capital.
Is there anything else that he said during the campaign? Because he did talk a lot about, for instance, a millionaire's tax, which also seems like legalized marijuana, like it's going to be a slam dunk. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
If that happens, does that affect your industry?
Well, our industry is directly impacted by the strength of the economy and a strong business climate. So to the extent that the new administration puts in place policies that somehow damage the business climate, that would be a concern of ours. You know, our primary focus right now is on the state bank issue. We see that as really issue number one for our banking industry, the marijuana issue. But yeah, we'll be closely monitoring some of the other things like the millionaire's tax and so forth. But that's going to happen. We know that's going to happen.
It was interesting, a couple of weeks ago, before the election happened, I was talking to the head of the Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey. And it seemed like Phil Murphy was going to win then, and he said, yeah, no, we welcome him. And it was odd, and I kept trying to figure out why he was saying he welcomed him, because it wouldn't normally be a Chamber of Commerce's position with somebody that wants to come in and tax and spend. And he said it's because he's at least willing to talk to us, and that we did not have the same relationship with Chris Christie. Well, do you find the same thing?
We didn't. We had a great relationship with Governor Christie. I mean, we didn't have a lot of direct interaction with him, but we worked through the Department of Banking and Insurance. Anytime a new administration comes in, I think it's a responsibility that's incumbent upon all of us to try and work together and do what's best for our state and our citizens. And the banking industry will be front and center, trying to do everything we can to support the new governor.
The state itself has been downgraded now 11 times under Chris Christie's administration. That must affect you if that slide continues. Do you see anything with what Phil Murphy says where that could be reversed?
Well, we need to have a stronger, fiscal position for the state. So we do need to generate more revenues. We need to try and control expenses and the entitlements. And, I think he's a Wall Street veteran from Goldman Sachs. He's a smart man. I think he understands the math. We've got to get the math to work better, and it'll benefit all of us.
I was just about to say that. He's a financial guy. You're a financial guy, and you see a benefit in that.
Yes, absolutely. He understands our industry.
You just don't want him to compete against your industry.
Not directly, no. Especially concerned about the smaller community banks.
Oh, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. John McWeeney is the president of New Jersey Bankers. Still to come on Jersey Matters, we'll continue talking about money and the new governor, specifically about the millionaire's tax. That's next on Jersey Matters.